Hi, my name is Allie Depew with Inspired Classroom, and I'm here today to give you some tips and tricks for presenting in front of a green screen. First, let's go ahead and talk about images. Behind me you can see there are a lot of different images of bears. Now, when I put a lot of images on this screen, one of the things that ends up happening is that I'm going to have to be moving around quite a bit to sort of get out of the way so that the students on the other end will be able to see these images. One of the things that we ask our presenters is that they stay on screen at all times unless it really will detract from something. What we don't like having presenters do is sort of stand at the edge right here and kind of pop on and off and on and off. It actually becomes very distracting for the students. And so I ask that you place images so they're either full screen or that you can move from side to side for the students to be able to see them. We also want you to be aware of the quality of your image. So this is a low resolution picture, and while the picture in and of itself is great of two bear cubs, it's going to come across very fuzzy and grainy, and it won't translate well to students. So please be aware of the quality of your images and try to use high resolution images. My personal favorite way to display an image is full screen. I like to use one image at a time and blow the image up so it's behind me. One, you're going to be able to see those pictures much better, the detail, and it also comes across in a little bit more engaging way for students when the image is full screen behind you. You can see I'm still covering part of the image, but just by slightly moving to the side, you're going to be able to get the feel for that image a lot better. Things are going to be switched around. So in my mind, when I see Washington, D.C. and the map in front of me, I go to point, I'm going to be pointing in the opposite direction. One of the tricks that I have is if you go ahead and step to the side of the screen, and it can be either side of the screen, you step to that screen and you point to the center, it's much easier to be able to go ahead and hit the spot that you're hoping to hit with your hand instead of having to guess and move around as to where you're going to point. A lot of times we have researchers that come in that would like to share data. Sharing data with students is fantastic. Again, let's just think about where we place that data and how much data we put on the screen. So I've put a pie chart up here. You can see that my favorite pie is huckleberry. I'm also very fond of strawberry, chocolate, and pecan. You can also see that I have placed the pie chart to one side of the screen. That allows me to have a spot where I can stand where I'm not blocking the information. The same is true with bullet points. If you are going to use words in your presentation and bullet points, let's remember to keep them very short. We don't want to include long paragraphs where students need to read and be really focusing on trying to read what's behind you. Also, if you put them on one side of the screen, what's going to end up happening is that you're not going to be having to duck because your head is covering up half of the sentence. We also encourage presenters to bring in props. We have the ability to zoom in on those props, and we also have a document camera and a scope on a rope, a microscope that we can look at things up close, but it really can add a lot to the presentation to bring those props in. I'd like to take a minute to talk about appropriateness in dress. I would really encourage you not to wear tank tops. Also, let's avoid shirts that have advertising or logo that might not be appropriate for schools. Also, highly patterned shirts don't always come across well on an interactive distance learning event. As you can see right now, there's a little almost squigglies around the edge of my shirt. This is just part of the video conferencing equipment, and it'll be highlighted quite a bit more if you wear highly patterned clothes. Another thing that I ask presenters to avoid are green clothing. Because we have a green screen, if you wear green clothing, what often happens is you get the floating head effect, and your body will disappear because it will blend in with the background. We recommend wearing dark colored clothing that you would be comfortable going to work in for these interactions. Remember, you're here as a role model or a resource for students, and so keeping it plain is really the best way to go. I want to take a moment just to talk a little bit about language and content in our presentations. The best thing to do is keep a G rating on our content and our language. Please refrain from swearing, either in your content, and that could be different media that you are showing. And also, if you have a question about whether or not content is appropriate for a certain age group, please ask. We will be happy to look over the content ahead of time and let you know whether or not it's going to be appropriate for the classroom. Thank you so much, and we look forward to having you in our studios.